Hey everybody, I'm Yvonne with Back to Earth Creations, and in this video I want to show y'all how to make these little wire wrapped drops of chaos. This is August 2024's craft along project, but you do not have to have the kit to be able to craft along with us. Let's go ahead and get this camera flipped around so you can see what all we need, and let's get started. I want to start out by showing you what you can expect in your August kit for 2024. Now there's going to be some variation between like size and tone of color, but it's going to be slight, and in general your kit should look something like what we have laid out here. Like I tried to show a good representation between the different sizes of what you can expect, and what kit you have doesn't necessarily, like just because you have our $15 kit doesn't mean you're just going to get little cabs. Just because you've got our $55 kit doesn't mean you're just going to get big cabs. We're going to try to give you a really good selection. So we have, this is our $15 kit here, and each kit does come with a 20% off coupon. You'll need to check the little business card that's in there, and there's a QR code that you can scan or take a picture of that will take you to where you can find this video. That QR code, you'll be any month of the year, you can scan it and it'll take you to find that month's craft along project. And also, this month we have a beautiful monarch butterfly sticker by our very talented niece. And I think she did an exceptional job, and so everybody gets a sticker in their kit. But the $15 kit is these two homemade fused glass cabochons and this really pretty little component. It's a little bit of a challenge. Like, I want to see what y'all come up with, because I was kind of thinking like some stuff like this, or like this. I don't know, but I thought the idea might be really freaking cool, and I'm really interested to see what y'all come up with, just as a little creativity challenge, to be like, I want to see what you make. So that's our $15 kit. Our $25 kit. Now we do have these available for our subscription service, like our Happy Crafter Club, or if you're uncertain, we do have them just as like a one-off, or if you're very particular in your tastes, and you just like what's in this month's kit and you don't really want to take a risk, then we have where you can just purchase kits for, you know, that specific month. So in our $25, this will be what you can expect. We have a spool. Now the colors of the wire, we're kind of having to liquidate our stock to kind of keep up with everything. So it will likely be silver. It may be a different color as well, but it will be a 26 gauge. And that way you can wrap this style in the drop of chaos. And then you can do all sorts of different stuff, but that's representative of our $25 kit. Now our $35 kit gets the same 15-yard spool of 26 gauge wire, but it also comes with one of our beautiful smash cabs and another style of our frit mold, or frit cabs that we made. We make those in a ceramic bisque mold, and then our these ones here, and then another one of these components. So this will be what you can expect in your $35 kit. Oops. And then same thing, you can kind of see with this is our 45 and this is our 55, but the difference with these ones is they come with 2 spools of wire. So you'll get the 15 yards of the 26 gauge as well as 4 yards of 18 gauge. And it is likely to be this champagne gold, but it may be an alternative color, just it's how supplies last. And honestly, I think our $55 kit is the best bang for your buck, because you get all of this here, both kinds of wire, all of this, plus with that 20% off coupon. If you like anything that's here, if you see something on the website, that gets you a pretty sweet deal on that as well. So that being said, let us get on with the tutorial. Oh, we also sell stickers on our website. Whee! Hey y'all, so today I'm going to be showing you how to do this style of wrap. Now this is the simplest that we did a like reel, short, or TikTok, we made a short format vertical video, whatever those are being called nowadays, for all of our social media, demonstrating how to make this one. And we also have a full length, uppy downy format for how to make Well, that's on the floor now. Huzzah! My keyboard caught it. But yeah, so we do have a tutorial on how to make this one. This one we just have a short format video for, and then this one I made like in the van. So we don't have any video of that one, but this is the simplest, adding in some beads and a little bit of coiling, and then adding in multiple gauges and, you know, adding new wires and, you know, doing beads. And so level 1, level 2, level 3, not necessarily in skill required, but just in complexity of the piece, but the techniques remain the same. So what we are going to do here, I'm going to pick this one. You could use any cabochon that you have, but what you want to take a look at is here on the side, because if you can see, I've got this cabochon that has a very narrow edge and kind of a gradual slope in. That's really great for this style of wrap. Whereas this one here, one of our fused glass cabochons, has a very wide, a very thick edge. You know, it does not come out fine. But both are very wrappable, and each has their unique difficulties, because like with this one here with that really thin edge, you kind of have to be careful. Rock versus metal, the metal will chip off little flakes of the rock. So it's actually, I actually kind of prefer something closer to this as opposed to that one, and as far as cabochon shape goes. But what we'll want to do is to make sure that our loops that we're fixing to make can accommodate the girth of our stone. So I'm pulling off, here I'm using 20 gauge, you could also use 18 gauge if you're following along with our craft along kits, which we send out like monthly, so it's a different project each month with different contents, but you can totally, you know, use just whatever you have on hand. We're gonna, so if you're watching this in the future after the month when it came out, I don't want you to feel like you can't craft along, you know? So, but yeah, I'd recommend, gosh, you could use a 22, a 20, an 18, or even a 16 gauge. I think would work well for this. Thicker than 16 gauge, and it's going to get pretty tough on the hands. Here I have, this is a stick mandrel that's like 10, 9, 8, 7, and 6 millimeter barrels, I think. I could probably measure and check that. Look, our first side quest of the project. Let's see. So this one here, yeah, that's 6 millimeters. And then this one here, yeah, that I think that's 10 millimeters. So on the 7 millimeter mandrel, I am going to go 1, 2 for a total of 3 wraps around. And then I want to be consistent here about which wire is on top. So I'm just going to cross, and I'm going to go 1 and 2. And now I'm going to pull this off. And for the stones, if you're using the stones, the cabochons, because this isn't stone, it's fused glass. I'm sorry, I misspoke. But if you're using some of our glass cabochons, these measurements will work. You know, for any of our frit style like these ones here, because they're typically a pretty consistent size, at least relatively to what we, you know, do here. So let's see, so we're going to wrap that around the 10 millimeter section of our mandrel, and then we're going to go 1 and 2, twisting in that same direction. And we want to do this 4 times, and I'm being consistent here about which wire is on top when we begin our cross, just because it helps maintain the tension, I think. You know, let's experiment and see what happens when we go the other way. Just for science. Because my worry is, ooh, hitting the tripod, my worry is that it would mess with the tension. But you can see here, I was inconsistent, and it was not the end of the world. So it's not a super duper big deal. So I'm going to do 3 twists on this last one, and I'm just doing a twist tie twist, and I try to apply in the same spot with my finger as I do with my thumb. That way I'm going to do one more just for demonstration purposes. If I go like this, well, that's not quite tight enough. If I come in real tight, it'll be kind of lopsided, I want to have them real close to each other, and we twist, and that gives us a nice tight twist. If we twist too tightly though, especially on those thinner wires, it can just cut right through itself, so don't go cray cray. I like to have this oriented so that if we have something, these loops are going to be our bail. So this section here is our bail. That's what you would string a chain or necklace through. And so we're going to keep that on there, but we'd want it oriented like this so that they're perpendicular as opposed to parallel. I don't know, I guess this way, I don't know. Hopefully the video will fill in the gaps where my words fail me. So I'm going to bend this right at the base of those twists. And we can actually use a ring mandrel, or if you don't have a ring mandrel, just a handy dandy water bottle. And I am just going to shape this around, and really you'll want to grab something that's close to the size and shape of the stone that you're setting. So we're just coming around, and that's much bigger than what we need, but we can just size it down like so. And I want to go ahead and nestle those two up together, and I am just twisting around and just around, however messy or however tidy as you want to be. And so now what we're going to do, if we are able to, see, this is where water bottle's a little too big for my purposes, but the ring mandrel fits just fine. You could also use like a wooden dowel or a cooking spoon handle or something. And I'm just bending this back like bezel wire around. And now I'm going to take my round nose pliers and I'm going to grab this and I'm going to just pull them in close to each other. If I'm too vigorous with it, it's going to bend pretty deeply out of shape, but that's okay. We can just kind of squish it back. But what we're looking for is a nice sharp bend, or a nice distinct bend. It doesn't have to be particularly sharp. Whoop. And I actually really like using this hole in the end of my mandrel as a leverage point to pull those in, like so. I'm going to set this off to the side. And you may have been able to do this on top of a block or a table as well. But we can just nestle our little cabochon on in. And then we get to just squish and smush. Like for years, y'all, for these past few years, I've been working on trying to get to where I can do this style of wrapping, where it's very meticulous and neat and orderly. But I tell you, I have deeply missed what I had considered my beginner work, you know, because it's how I wrapped when I first started learning to wire wrap, because I wasn't able to do this and make it look like clean and nice, like, but gosh, to come back to wrapping like this is a whole other beast, and I think it's just as, I think I actually like it better than this style, to be honest. Like, I've always admired this style, but I love making these ones, so I'm so glad to have come full circle back to that, because no two piece comes out alike, and it is certainly never boring with just the smushing and the squishing and the poking around. There we go. Now, and if we had a larger stone that's just as thick, I would have done more loops. Now also we could have done more loops anyways. I can actually back it up and show y'all. So if you decide that it's just not working out, and this is also going to be an excellent demonstration of Parawire, which is this enameled craft wire that I'm using. It is some tough stuff, y'all. Okay. Making sure that our twists are intact. There we go. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do one more loop, and I'm going to show you. There we go. What we would do from here, we're going to undo all of that work that we did. Oops, hitting my coffee cup. Cheers, everybody. Clink. Oh, that's pretty good. It was from like 4 hours ago, but I don't know when the last time I had a cup of coffee that was still fresh from whenever I actually brewed it, because I'll brew it and then by the time I get around to drinking it, it's cold and has some dog hair in it probably. But yeah, so we're going to take this away, and I'm just going to place my pliers in, and I'm going to go like this. And then I'm going to go like this. And you can see it does not need to be perfect at all. But the goal here is to get these little loops to take up the same kind of perimeter circumference of the stone. So this is how we would do this with more tabs, like more little bezels. So let's go ahead and I'm going to do one more twist on this one. Now, I'm not zooming in as much because I really feel like I'm just going to be wandering out of frame. So, good luck, I guess. I'm going to just let it be nice and messy, too. It didn't have to be anything. And now we can slide our ring mandrel back in. And we can get this back up to the size that we would like for it to be, so that it can accommodate our stone. I'm going to make it just a little larger. I don't want it too tight because I do want to be able to fit some crafty, like some more wire through, really, just so that if you make it too tight, this one was pretty snug and I was not able to fit a whole lot of decoration. We want room for our pendant to grow, and I think that kind of clearance will be perfect. Or it won't be, we'll see. Oops. So just taking the end of our we're going to repeat that same step. I don't mind doing the same thing more than once for the sake of science or for demonstration or just, ooh, I think that's going to be so nice. And so now this is like the sloppiest prong bezel. In fact, I think that might be what we call this, a sloppy prong bezel. We'll see. Oh, that's so cute though. And we could use some flat-nosed pliers to try to make things a little crisper. Ooh, oh, that might be so neat. Okay, y'all had an idea. I'm gonna open this up. I'm going to try real hard to I'm going to take these stepped or tapered flat nose pliers, and I'm going to take it like kind of in the middle, and I'm going to bend, and I'm trying to make like a little beep boop part. If I were making like a crescent moon or something, I'd twist it, but I don't want it to be poking up. So I think I'm just going to keep doing that. So what I'm doing is I'm placing it and then I'm turnkeying it. So the trick is trying to find where to apply resistance, but it's okay. This whole thing's going to be real funky. But do you see how that brings it into a point? Like, I'm not looking for some symmetry or consistency. I'm learning. But yeah, just bring in those ends. And I'm doing this by twisting this side of the pliers towards me. And now bringing it away. And that just makes like a nice little taper there. But now I can take here and open. And open. Oh, that didn't do it all like I was hoping. Well, maybe if we get this stick mandrel back in there. I'm sure that there's a way to do this, that there's wire wrappers out there who make it just look so easy, y'all. And they'll do these beautiful like lotus flower tips. That's what I was trying to do, is those lotus flower tips, I'm realizing now. And those have always given me trouble. But that's okay. It's okay. We're not here showing up to be perfect. We're here showing up to learn and to have fun. So we're just going to take that and kind of smushy squish some mush, and I'm just using the flat side of my flat nose pliers, and I'm using it as a bezel roller to just smush that tip down against the glass. Now if you're using a gemstone like turquoise or amber or something soft, like some of the softer jaspers might be at risk, and hematite, any particularly brittle stone like malachite would resent this. Beware of this stone. Some stones really won't like that, and you could crack them and have some trouble, so that's something to keep in mind. But yeah, so there's this one's still poking up a little bit, so I'm just gonna smush it some more. There we go. And so now from here, I used my fingernails to split that apart, though, so that the bail looks nice and like kind of spacey. But if you don't want to do that, don't worry about it. It's just, you got options. So now I'm going to come through and I'm going to use both wires. And I'm going to come around. How spirally do we want this? Because I have a difficult time making things be balanced whenever it's a 4-point or an even number. Really the 4-point's the most challenging for me, because the rest of the time I can usually just start building things up. So I'm going to just curve around the shoulder, almost like it's wearing a scarf. And then I'm going to come around the back. But I like the where this space is, and every single one of these is going to be different, y'all. But I just want to share the thought process. But I want to grow like a vine. One that grows a layer and then next year regrows on itself, and the next year regrows on itself again. And so that was the first layer of vining, and now we're doing the second layer. And I'm practicing just trying to make sure that my wires are sitting next to each other well, that I'm not getting a whole lot of twisting. Twisting is not necessarily a bad thing, it just can really add bulk, and at this stage I'm trying to add as little bulk as possible. I'm trying to just get like the bones down. Okay, so coming through, I'm just going to thread through right here. So I'm going in a little bit of like a meandering, I come in through one way and then I come in through another. But, oh, and I've decided apparently that I'm just going to be working with one wire now. So I'm going to come through, and I feel like doing an itsy bitsy spiral. We have a masterclass lesson for free. All of our tutorials are free at this point in time, and that's how we'd like to keep it, but there's no telling what the future holds. We have a whole masterclass going over and in depth on how to make spirals, so if that's something that interests you, you may want to check that out. But I'm just going to come around town, and then, oh, I don't want to go underneath it because I feel like that'll be problematic, but it's kind of poking up anyways. So maybe, what if we, we're just going to go on top of it. And then I'm going to go back around the neck, and I'm going to leave that one there. And now with this side, we can come through, and I'm going to come up and over from this way, and I'm going to come underneath all that. And sometimes if you're having trouble getting a straight wire to come through, we're going to put it through and then bend it a little. So it's made it into a curved needle, and so now it might follow the curve of the cap a little better, and it did. It worked out. Now we're just going to slide that around the back. And I think I'm going to have this one be a little spiral just right up here at the top, because I like how it looks like it's spiraling out from behind, because it is, but I think that's neat. And now our wires are friends again. Sometimes their paths split, but sometimes they come back together. And we could legit just leave this like this. I think that's very pretty, and I've sold worse work than this. So, like, so long as the stone's holding in there, it's comfortable to wear. There's no pokey bits. I mean, of course, we'd snip this off. And if it looks in a way that is acceptable, then you did it. There's no right or wrong way other than it holds together and it's not uncomfortable to wear. Because sometimes if something's pokey, that's just, art's in the eye of the beholder, but pokey is pokey. So, okay, so I've wrapped both of these back around this way. And now I'm going to kind of climb down, but I want to coil down the whole length of just one of them. And that's what I'm going to use this 26 gauge wire for. You could also use a 24, a 28, or even a 30 gauge wire. But something to keep in mind, and if you're new to the concept of gauges, the larger the number, the finer the wire, like the thinner it is. So a 30 gauge is like hair thin, and so you're going to be doing a lot of coiling. A 24 gauge is significantly thicker, and so your 10 coils would, 10 coils in 30 gauge covers that much space, rough about. 10 coils in 24 gauge covers about that much space. So these are very rough estimates, but I hope that communicates the concept of, and what I mean by that is this is a 26 gauge, so we're going to do 10 coils, which you can see I've bent that wire around like this, and we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And so you can see, if you've got a wire like with the 24 gauge, it's going to eat up that mileage a little bit more. But it's much harder on my fingernails. So there's pros and cons to all of these things. And I've pulled off and snipped a full arm span of this 26 gauge wire. And I'm just bringing down that little tail of the wire, and then I've given it a smush, and I'm going to come in here, and this is what I call burnishing down the wire, and that is just rubbing it. I'm gripping with my pliers just enough that I can still rotate it. Like so, gripping down and gently rubbing it in the direction that the wire was already going, and that way that wire end is finished in and not pokey. And now we're just going to continue coiling down. Oftentimes folks will be like, they'll ask if using a drill is an option. I wouldn't, because this piece is going to be like going crazy on the end. I think it's a good idea to be in practice, at least for my own self, to be in good practice of my coiling, because sometimes wire wrapping, the challenging part is the endurance that it takes to complete a piece. And so by staying conditioned to be able to coil my own coils, I really like that. Now, if there's a project that has more than one coil, you bet your butt cheeks I'm going to be grabbing my drill. And the way that I would do that with this piece is I would actually slide this off the end, or I'd start it on another wire, slide it off, and then I'd come in and carefully slide it back on. And so that can be tricky, but everything has a pro and con for why to choose one technique or way of doing things over another. And so much of it is purely situational. And the more you craft, the more you will develop that wisdom to be able to gauge for yourself. I'm willing to take the risk of using a drill on this piece, or I'll just coil everything before I even attach it, because that's something that you could do too, is we could have snipped off the wire, coiled this on a drill, and then just attached it in a different spot. So it's, if there's a crafter, there's a way, y'all. But the whole idea, my whole goal of making these videos is to give y'all as many tools in your mental toolkit, as many techniques to draw from, because I feel like that the more we learn as creative people, you know, whether it's wire wrapping or painting or, you know, sculpting or, you know, quilting, or I mean anything, name a craft, and I really do think this applies. The more colors you have in your palette, the more options you have. Like the more different colors and textures and wefts of yarn you have to use, the broader your creativity can, you know, sometimes be with what you can express in a piece, you know. So it's, though I don't know, the challenge is the way. Some of my most favorite pieces have happened when I haven't had, you know, many options to draw from, like our dragon eye video. Those dragon eyes that we had started making all those years ago, we had started making because we didn't have any money to buy cabochons. So I got some like fish tank glass from the dollar store and painted it up with, I had 3 bottles of nail polish. I had a black, a purple, and like a glow-in-the-dark yellowy green. And those were the colors that I painted my very first dragon eyes in. And at first it started with just painting the backs of the fish tank glass. Then it was like, you know, I bet you we can make this sucker look like a dragon. Okay, so I'm going to continue coiling until I've gotten to like an inch of the end of our wire. When we get here to the end, I'm going to come in and I'm going to snip. And then I'm going to smush, making sure that the wire's just as nice and tight as we can get it on itself. Like I don't want it all spread out, because we'll want to be careful. We only want to grip the core wire, because if I grip here and pull, it might pull it off the end. Did you see how much it drug that down? So that's what I mean by having it all just condensed on itself, as tight of a spring as we can. And so now, ooh, this is one of my favorite parts, because now I get to be all weird about adding little coils and spirals and all sorts of fun stuff. So I'm just gonna make another itsy bitsy spiral. And don't hesitate to use your tools, but I always try to remind myself to come in and make sure that my pliers didn't leave like a split in the coiling. So now I'm just filling in any gaps that we may have. Ooh, I think one would look really cool over here. No, what we're gonna do is we're gonna have it come through from behind right there. And this is where I think it's valuable to have those spaces in a stone, or between the bezel wire and the stone, is so that we can cram some creativity in between. And so now from here, I'm going to come around and do another little flop. And I'm going to have that travel around the curve. I love riding the wave of the curves. And I'm going to have this one come through right there. Now, I want to be careful about what direction I'm pulling, because if I pulled out this way, we may distort the wire that we're threading through. So be bold, but careful. Ooh, I like that, how it slid. Very cool. Oh, that's going to be perfect. So now I'm going to shape this spiral around. That made it pretty bulky, so it's not quite what I want. So I think I'm going to have our spiral happen where my wire's exiting on the underside. So I'm going to bring that through. Will that fit right there? We can try. In doubt, just wiggle it. There we go. And now from here, I'm going to coil this in. And I'm going to use my very petite round nose pliers. And I'm going to bring that around. And I'm going to snip off the part that the pliers bit into to leave us a really dainty little whoop, a little start to our spiral. And now when it gets to where my plier jaws were in the way, I'm going to swap out for some flat nose. And I'm just going to take this and cinch it in this way. Now we can take this and kind of cram it, you know, for stability purposes, because we don't want it getting snagged on anything. So we can just kind of cram it just a little underneath one of these other wires. If you wanted, you could totally like coil them together or something. I'm not worried about that. I wanted to do something fun and flowy that doesn't have a bunch of intricate weaving. Now in our craft along kit we didn't include any beads, but for the sake of demonstration, let's see. Let me rummage up some beads. So these are just some like wee bitty faceted ovals. You'll want to make sure that, are they even ovals or rondels? I don't know. But you'll want to make sure that your beads fit on to your wire. That's the biggest thing. And so what I'm going to do, and you can see how our wire is a little gnarled up. I'm just going to take that and I'm going to run it between the jaws of my nylon jaw pliers. Now it's not going to spiral as smoothly, but we don't have all these bumps and things for our beads to catch on. So I'm just going to thread that bead down, and I'm going to put a bead right here, and I want that bead to be right there. So that's where I'm going to hold it, and then I am going to start bending around the bead. I'm not super upset if it's not exactly in the spot where I had planned for it to be. Coiling around like so. And then we're going to come down this way, and I'm going to have this travel through our wires. And we can actually take this and just kind of press it in a little, in and down. When in doubt, smush it out. And then we could totally put a bead right there if we wanted to, but actually I think I'm good. So let's see, I'm gonna do another bead out of here perhaps. Just because I want to add a little bit of weight to the end of this, like to the end center. You can change the whole shape of your pendant by adding beads. And I think that's a superpower. So sometimes I'll go over and sometimes I'll go under where the bead is connecting. I'm going to use our super petite round nose pliers to make a little hooky thing, and then I'm just going to tuck it like that. And I'm going to use my bent nose pliers to get in there and kind of squish that shut. So there is a very fun little drop of chaos. Now to do a piece like this one, let me go over the differences. These two were made in very similar ways, same amount of wire. This one I added in, I had started again with just 18 gauge as the base, made the bail, made the little, like that wire is part of the original loop frame, that's loop frame, that's loop frame, that's loop frame. And then I used the full length of the wire But then I added a 20 gauge wire that's been coiled with 28 gauge. And let's see, how did I choose to attach that? I don't even know. I can't even unravel these, but I incorporated some little 2 and 3 millimeter and 4 millimeter beads. So that's the key difference with this one, other than stone size. I did add in another wire. And then this one, I used 2 18 gauge wires for the core. So like how sometimes we were able to have the wires traveling beside each other along the same path, it was like that the whole time. The wires were like, instead of it being like this, it was like this. So whenever I did the fold over for the bail, there were 2 wires coming off this way and 2 wires coming off this way. And then I brought them around and twisted them. You know, so if you can kind of visualize, the next loop would be here and then twist and then a loop and then twist. But there's 2 wires on each side. And that gave me, well, literally double the material to be able to pull this off, where there's a whole lot going on. I added multiple coils. I added a bunch of beads. It was a lot of fun. So I do hope that this was helpful to y'all. And I can't wait to see what y'all make. Thank you all so much for hanging out with me during this video. I do hope that it's helpful to you. If you have any questions, comments, or ideas, please leave them down below and I'll do my best to get back to you. I really love this style of wire wrap. I think it's really versatile. I think we can dress it up in a lot of different ways. And I can't wait to see how y'all make this design your own. I want to give a big shout out and thank you to all of our Happy Crafter Club members, our Patreon supporters, and our YouTube channel members, and to everybody who's here watching. Y'all make what we do possible. So thank you so much for enabling us to make all these free tutorials and share these fun designs and get to connect in the live streams, just everything that we do here. Thank you for being here to be a part of it. And I think there's links to everything down in the video description, like social media and all that. There might be stuff popping up on the screen for you to watch next. So I will see y'all in the next video. And until then, happy crafting. Mwah. Bye.